Hey YouTube, how you doing? Stay with me to the end of this video because I drove to Primm, Nevada, and I filmed the area where the video arcade was located, and also I got some footage of the ladies' restroom. But first, I want to give a shout out to my friend Mark Finch. During the early morning hours of May the 25th, 1997, Jeremy Strohmeyer and his friend David Cash ended up at a casino called Primadonna. Today it's called Primm Valley. Earlier they were seen on security cameras across the road at Whiskey Pete's, and they were walking through the video arcade there. At the time, Jeremy was 18 and David was 17, both too young to gamble legally in Nevada. These two met in high school while attending Woodrow Wilson in Long Beach, California. You may recall in another video I did about Whiskey Pete's Casino involving a cold case of Alexander Harris, who was also 7 years old and abducted from the video arcade there. So we have two arcades across the road from each other, owned by the same corporation with the same casino security operations, and this is interesting to me. Around 4 a.m., Jeremy and David, now they're back at the Primadonna at the arcade area, and they're just kind of hanging out and messing around and kind of bored. And they're waiting for Cash's father to finish playing poker. And again, both are underage 21. So they're not allowed to roam around in gambling areas. There was a 7-year-old girl named Sherrice Iverson, and she's also in the arcade area, and she had already been there for some time. She and her father named LeRoy, it's actually spelled L-E-R-O-Y. It could be LeRoy, but I'm going to call him LeRoy. LeRoy Iverson and Sherrice's older brother, his name's Harold, and he was 14 at the time, back in 97. So they arrived earlier at the Primadonna. They also came in from California. The plan was that they wanted to get a room, but the hotel was sold out. LeRoy ends up gambling, and he has Sherrice's older brother, Harold, to watch her, and they wander off to the arcade because, again, minors aren't allowed in the gaming areas in Nevada. I just can't find any information on Harold Iverson, on his whereabouts during this time. Casino security sees Sherrice unchaperoned, and they take her directly to her father, and they eventually ask him to leave, and this happened twice. And both times he ignores their requests, and he continues to drink and gamble. Another time, security finds her asleep in a chair. Again, he ignores their request to leave, and he continues to drink and gamble. The next thing that happens is Strohmeyer and Sherrice start playing a game of hide and seek, messing around. You know, they're bored to death, hunting for things to do. You can actually see in the security camera of her hiding from him, and he tells her, he suggests to her that if she really wanted to hide from him, to run in the ladies' restroom, because he isn't allowed to go in there, and she can hide and be safe. So she does this. She runs to the restroom, and I'll bring some video in here shortly, and it'll show this. But he follows her into the restroom, and the two of them begin throwing wet paper towels at each other. And then, according to Strohmeyer, she throws a yellow plastic wet floor sign at him, and he said this angered him because it kind of hurt his arm. And about this time, David Cash enters the restroom, and he sees Strohmeyer forcibly taking Sherrice into the large handicap stall far back to the left in the restroom. Jeremy strips Sherrice's boots off and her pants and her underwear, and Cash goes into the next stall and climbs up and looks over and sees Strohmeyer with his left hand over Sherrice's mouth, and he's fondling her with his other hand. Cash said that at this time he taps Strohmeyer on the forehead and actually knocks his cap off, and Jeremy looks up at him and just glares. At this point is when David Cash becomes a bad Samaritan because he doesn't do anything, he leaves, doesn't tell anyone. Jeremy went on to digitally rape Sherrice. Now, digitally rape means he used his fingers. Interestingly, the security video shows that 8 women went into the restroom during this time, but no one heard anything. Jeremy testified, gave a statement that he heard 2 young ladies talking in the restroom. So he holds his hand over Sherrice's mouth and he tells her to shut up. If you don't, I'm going to kill you. He ends up strangling her. And when he was done, he noticed that she was still breathing, and he can see that she was suffering, having a hard time. So what he does is he takes his left hand on her chin and his right hand on her shoulder, and he snaps her neck until he hears a pop. And then there's no more sounds and she doesn't make a move. The next thing you'll see in the video is him exiting the restroom. Eventually Cash's father stops playing poker and they drive on into Las Vegas for a couple of days. Cash and Jeremy don't say a word to Cash's father. Now, when you drive back from Las Vegas, heading back to Long Beach, it's on 15, and you're heading west on 15. And you go right past the Primadonna. Go right by there. They still don't say a word. They don't say a word. Next thing that happens is Jeremy, they end up going back to school at the Woodrow Wilson High School. And Jeremy brags to classmates, a couple of girls, what he did. And he's saying that person in the news is me. So the girls go right home and tell their mothers, and the mothers contact the police. The girls review the footage and point out that that's definitely Jeremy Strohmeyer. Now, you may be thinking that why isn't David Cash in trouble over this? Well, believe it or not, back in 97, again, this happened May of 97, it was not a law. If you see a crime being committed, it's not a law. You're not breaking the law if you don't tell anyone. Well, since this and because of this case, Nevada thankfully has passed a law. This went into effect in 1999, that if you see a crime being committed to a child and you don't report it, you're guilty too. Well, Jeremy ends up signing his rights away without an attorney, and he makes a full confession to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police and tells them everything from A to Z. And he ends up hiring, or his folks end up actually hiring, an attorney by the name of Leslie Iverson. Now, the first thing she does is she works on getting the confession thrown out, because he's at that young age, even though he's 18, and he had no attorney present. That was her game plan. First, get that thrown out. Well, what happened is during the investigation, the law enforcement found child porn on Jeremy's computer. his desktop. Well, now Iverson, his attorney, suggests to him that he accept life in prison without the possibility of parole, because most likely with this case he would get the death penalty. So Jeremy agrees to this, and today, as I make this video in 2021, he's 42 years old, and he's still in prison just a little bit north of Las Vegas. So LeRoy Iverson's finally ready to go. He's done playing poker, and he's looking around for Sherrice and Harold. And again, I can't find any information at all about Harold, what his story was and his whereabouts. Anybody that knows, please leave some comments. Security eventually finds Sherrice deceased in the bathroom stall in the ladies' room. Now, allegedly, I don't know if this is true or not. I've read this, and I heard a radio report. I don't know if it's true, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you anyway. Harold, or not Harold, but LeRoy said to the casino executives and security that if y'all give me some more gambling money and give me some beer, give me a hotel room and fly my girlfriend in and pay our expenses, that I won't sue you. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. And at this time, LeRoy's 57 years old. So 3 years later, at age 60, he dies of cancer and diabetes. But before he died, he did file a lawsuit against the Primadonna. However, he died before it went to court. Let's talk about Jeremy's parents, his adoptive parents, for a little bit. I saw that they did an interview on a Barbara Walters program, and they're talking about how surprised they were to learn that Jeremy's biological mother suffered from a mental disease. And I've actually read one report that she was hospitalized 18 times before, then another report said 60 times while she's pregnant with Jeremy. Well, this wasn't disclosed to the Strohmeyers. Now, the way that works is the prospective adoptive parents fill out a questionnaire, and they're questioned about what type of baby they'll accept. One of the questions it talks about the baby's mental health, physical health, and it talks about the parents. Well, all this, according to the Strohmeyers, was withheld from them. Now, the way it works is the adoptive agency doesn't bring babies to you and you pick one out. It doesn't work that way, because if you see a cute kid, you're going to grab him up if you really want a baby and run off regardless. So they'll only be presented with children that fit the criteria what they're looking for in an infant. So I think they end up suing the adoptive agency over this too, and I haven't heard how that ever turned out. Here you see Sherrice playing, kind of hiding from Jeremy. She goes into a ladies' room. Jeremy right after her. David Cash enters next. 2 minutes later, you see David Cash exiting right here. Jeremy exits 22 minutes later after he murders Sherrice. I found some old footage of where the arcade was located. It's kind of hard to find, and nobody will really help you. I knew I was in the right area from the elevators here on the right, the windows on the left. This was a hopping place back in the day. This is the arcade. Today it's full of exercise equipment. It's been changed somewhat. This is for the hotel, for the guests, the exercise room. This is what it looks like down inside. Okay, I talked my wife into go ahead and, since we're in Primadonna, go ahead and film the restroom where it happened at. Nobody was in this restroom. She checked. We want to be very respectful. But I wanted to show where it happened at. This is the handicap stall. There was more room. Plus, he was able to hide back at this wall with Sherrice so that nobody would see him. At the entrance here is where they were playing with the wet paper towels. So I thought you'd like to know. Please leave comments.